And with that being said, I'd like to welcome everybody to the first of two candidate forums for the Capilano Students' Union general elections. We have invited candidates for collective coordinators and liaisons, as well as faculty, campus, and at-large representatives to join us to tell us about their goals and visions for the Capilano Students' Union. I'd like to take a moment to thank our moderators from the Capilano Courier, Bridget Stringer-Holden and Alicia Samnani. Now I will pass the mic to them.
All right, thank you, John, and thank you for having us moderate the forum again. So we'd just like to point out also that there will be a second candidate forum on Thursday, March 11th at the same time, where we will be hearing from candidates running for CSU president and vice president positions, as well as all of the Capilano business and professional society positions. So Bridget and I have prepared questions for all of our candidates, but we will also be asking any audience submitted questions at the end of our session. So if you do have a question, please submit it by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So candidates, just so you know, you will have about 1 minute per question. So please keep your answers concise and to the point. So we will be starting off with the CSU Business and Professional Studies representatives, Terrace Alanis and Ben Hickman. Let's wait for them to come to the stage. Hello. Okay, so I guess we will start with Ben. Why do you feel as though you would be a good candidate for the Business and Professional Studies representative specifically?
Well, I think, in my, I guess it's not such a short time at CapU anymore. It's my 4th semester. It's often been a pretty reflective experience. And I think, I don't know if that has shared with all the students within the business program. I think the word I always think of is potential. I think, a lot of the business program is really centered around money and things like that. Of course, it's what makes businesses run and everything, but I think it's important for students to really learn how to be, good people within an organization as well. And I hope to maybe set an example for that.
Okay, thank you. And Terrence, same question. Why do you feel as though you would be a good candidate for the Business and Professional Studies representative?
Thank you for asking, Alicia. So I believe I'd be a really good candidate because with my prior involvement with the Capilano Business and Professional Society as a student leader of the Capilano University Marketing Association, it's been a really great experience conducting policy and creating events with the folks with the CBPS, as well with our executive director, Christopher, as well with our revolving door of executive director of associations with Donna, with Hassan Morali, with CBA. So I think definitely that experience, my first time being a student leader and learning and understanding the structure of the CSU definitely helps me out running in a business and professional studies representative position.
Perfect. And so for the two of you, I guess we'll go back to Ben again. What do you expect to accomplish this term if elected?
Sorry, if you could repeat that last part again.
What do you expect to accomplish this term if you are elected?
I don't really have a lot of experience in this sort of thing. It's kind of my first time diving into this sort of thing, but I think I also work with the EDI action group currently, as there are some other candidates in that group as well. And I think sort of taking my work with that and trying to implement it into some of the processes that go into the business program, I think I could, I don't know how much turnover certain policies there would be right away, but I think it would be, kind of getting the word in to have sort of those things kind of move forward within the program. I think that would be probably my first, point of action.
Good. And Terrence, same question.
Thank you for asking. So two things actually. The first one is definitely, focusing on wellness and sustainability for all the business students. And another thing is for the third and fourth year students, the folks that are close to wrapping up their degree, seeing how we can support them as they transition from the classroom to a workplace setting. I mean, whether it's helping them out with tuition, whether it's helping them out with like student loans, whether it's getting them opportunities, whatever the case may be. Definitely helping out those that are graduating soon and looking forward to advance their professional aspirations, and seeing how I, as a business representative, can help out our graduating folks.
Perfect. Thank you. So for both of you, how familiar are you with the CSU and what they do specifically as a representative for a faculty position? And Ben, I'll start with you.
So yeah, as I said before, I don't have terrible amount of experience with this stuff, but I think the way it's been described to me as I kind of went into this process to get nominated and things like that, I think the emphasis on community was a big one. I think I'd want to just see what that experience is like. I think it's important to have that sort of qualities within the group. And like I've had, as I said, a lot of people tell me about the experience a lot, and I'm mostly just excited to see where it goes.
And Terrence?
If anything, definitely the same answer as Ben. Just being more involved with the students union. Just to give you some backstory, this is my second go around at CAP. I was initially in the technical theater program because I was kindly declined by the film program, so I wasn't able to get involved with the students union. But after having a year under my belt, as a CBPS student leader, I definitely have gotten more motivated to get involved with the CSU at any capacity, whether it's as a board director, whether it's staff, whether as a volunteer. At the end of the day, I do want to get involved with the CSU any capacity, and I feel like the business and professional representative position is a good place to start.
Perfect. So what is something that the CSU isn't currently doing that you wish they were, or that you'd like to implement? And Ben, we'll start with you again.
I think, I mentioned before with a lot of the things that we do within the EDI action group. I think, a lot of things we do there can inform. I know there are plenty of great things that the CSU does already, but I think, it's just stressing, the different things with, of course, yesterday was like International Women's Day. I think there's a lot of those sorts of things that the CSU can really push so that the institution can have those sort of things carry over throughout, the whole year, and just be really have a lot of accountability within the institution, and just make it a great place to learn, great place for people to grow, and
Perfect.
I'm guessing I'm answering the same question. Oh, cool. I think if there is one thing, probably trying to foster a better relationship with the professors and faculty at Capilano University. I mean, I understand that the CSU and Capilano University are two separate organizations, so I understand that hierarchy structure, and I understand student empowerment, but at the same time, I feel like that a lot of professors do want to help out at any capacity. I mean, granted, it comes with a territory though, because as students we have rights, and it's imperative for us to continue to promote our rights as students if any of our professors goes out of line. But at the end of the day, definitely trying to foster a better relationship with our professors.
Perfect. And for our final question for you two, if you had a student bring up a suggestion or a concern that you didn't potentially agree with, but they still wanted you to bring it to the board and discuss it, what would you do in that instance? Ben?
I mean, I think, if a student has any sort of concern, there's definitely a good reason for it, for them to be bringing it to the CSU. And I think, if I don't agree with it per se, that's just, maybe some other people within the CSU would have a different perspective on it and could, inform me in a different way and have me sort of, have a different perspective on it as well. I think it's important if any students feeling, at all uncomfortable or, anxious about something, there's definitely a good reason for it, like I said. So, if it ever does come up, I think just take everything, not with a grain of salt and just see, what all the other perspectives from the people at the CSU could kind of deal with that.
Correct. And Terrence, same question.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty much the same answer as Ben, because at the end of the day, as much as we want to be as equitable as possible to every member of the Capilano Students Union, and by member I mean of all the students, at the same time you do want to act in the best interest collectively for the students and for the entire structure of the CSU. So it's definitely a similar answer to what Ben said.
Perfect. Thank you both. And do either of you have any, closing remarks?
Yes. Ben, I am digging your glasses and your headset get up right now. I don't know how you pull it off, but it's
I appreciate it. I think it would be, maybe a little bit different if it didn't have the beard. It would kind of just be, an egg with headphones on and glasses. So that I appreciate that very much.
Oh, if anything, keep the beard.
All right, thank you too. And I'll pass it off to Bridget now.
Perfect, thanks Alicia. So the next we will be hearing from candidates for the CSU Queer Students Liaison, Juliet Perkis and Sarah Lynn. So I'll just give them a second to come to the stage. Perfect. So I'll start off with the first question. Why do you feel you'd be a good candidate for this position specifically? And we'll start with Juliet.
Okay, yeah. Well, ever since I came out nearly a year ago now, LGBTQ issues have been something I care very deeply about. I spend a good bit of my time reading, researching, and getting involved in the community in just any way I can. And I think I have a lot of ideas and a lot to offer in that regard.
Perfect, thank you. And Sarah, same question. Why do you feel you'd be a good candidate for this position specifically?
Well, as a queer individual, and I'm outgoing, I have previously ran clubs and I love this topic. I'm in psychology and I'm also taking women and gender studies. And I just think that it would be awesome to be able to give my input and feedback and to represent the queer student body.
Thank you. And the next question is, what do you expect to accomplish this term? So we'll go back to you, Juliet.
Okay, yeah, I think a big portion of what I want to accomplish is accessibility of services, things like that. however that may be, I don't think that CAP is capable necessarily just now of handling every issue or service that someone might require. So possibly, you know, expanding and even advertising those services, because for my first, you know, my first term, first year, I had no idea the services that CAP offered for such as, like, you know, women's center, counseling, all those things. It's I think the expansion of those is very, very important.
Thank you. And Sarah, what would you like to accomplish this term?
I totally agree with Juliet. I think that needs to be something that is expanded on. My goal, though, is to bring, other than what Juliet said, is to bring in some more queer literature into our classes, because I've seen a deficit in that area, even in women's and gender studies. So I think that a good start would be to bring in some more and implement some more queer literature to kind of start the education process and the normalization process of being queer, because there's a lot of queer people out there, and I think that it's just not super like present in university life, because for so long it wasn't really considered even a real thing.
Thank you. And we'll go back to Juliet with the question, do you have any prior experience in this role or a similar one?
In terms of like student government, or specifically with queer issues?
I believe either works.
Okay. I was involved in student government in high school, although that's not incredibly impressive. Other than that, I not too much. This is one of my first or initial steps into helping, giving back to the community. You know, so it's I think it's a good way to say thank you to all the you know, the men, women, non-binary individuals who've helped me on my journey. And I think now that I think that I'm properly equipped to give back, I guess, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Sarah?
Could you just repeat the question again quickly?
Yeah, of course. Do you have any prior experience in this role or a similar one?
Yeah, in high school again, I ran clubs and started some clubs pertaining to mental health, and I was part of the queer club. I also work I also work with youth in, like, at Parkgate in their youth center, and there's queer youth that are there too, and Parkgate does a lot of that. And again, this would be another step to take that further, and I definitely feel I'm equipped to be on the student union board and help with that because of my previous experience in all of those areas.
Thank you. And the next question is, how familiar are you with the CSU and what they do? Juliet.
I think I briefly touched on it before, but I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. I don't think it's discussed what the CSU can offer. You know, throughout my first year and even in my second, you know, I had very little idea of what the CSU was capable of offering, and I think that's something that can definitely be addressed. You know, just getting the word out, even if that's all it takes, right?
Perfect, thanks. And now to Sarah, how familiar are you with the CSU and what they do?
Well, as far as my knowledge goes, that if you're a member of the CSU on the board, you represent and advocate for the student body that you represent. So for us, it would be queer liaison. And it seems like an awesome and amazing community to be a part of, and seems like a really good way to get to know people and to educate and advocate for our queer peers.
Thanks. And the next question is, what is something the CSU isn't doing that you wish they were? So we'll go back to you, Juliet.
Yeah, I think, Sarah mentioned it. I think the queer exposure, queer literature in libraries and classrooms is very important. It's showing people that we exist and, we're just like everyone else, right? And beyond that, I think that's, the expansion, again, of services that we can offer, getting help to people who need it, whether that be, counseling or whatever it is. Because that first step is very difficult to take in my own personal experience. So I think anything we can do to make the lives of our students easier is a good first step.
Thank you. And Sarah, is there anything that the CSU isn't doing that you wish they were?
Well, aside from the queer literature, I think that, or personally, I would like to see more information and or education sessions on like queer sexuality, pronouns, all of that stuff, safe sex, all of that, because I think that is really, really important. And I think that even if you're not queer, it's just as important, if not so even more, to attend those kind of events. So I would like to see that. I feel the CSU should do more of that, and I think that would be awesome.
Thank you. And for the last question, what would you do if a student brought up a controversial suggestion or concern that you didn't agree with and wanted you to bring it to the board? Juliet?
I guess that's part of the job, it's one person can't have all the ideas. And perhaps someone brings something to me or to Sarah, that we hadn't considered. And it would only be fair for their voice to be heard. Perhaps I don't agree with it. Perhaps logistically it's not possible even, but people like to feel that they're represented, that they're heard. So, I would probably bring that up if it was logically reasonable to do so, I guess,
Thank you. And Sarah, what would you do if a student brought up a controversial suggestion or concern that you didn't agree with and wanted you to bring it to the board?
Like as a representative, that's your job. You want to relay anything that anyone else says to the board, and I think that just because I don't agree with it, that doesn't make an invalid point or argument. So I would bring it to the board no matter what what I disagree with, because it can be further unpacked by other people and not just me, and it can become a discussion, and we can all figure it out together instead of just dismissing it because I disagree with it. I think that's wrong.
Thank you. And now we'll go to final remarks. Juliet?
I think that's whoever or however the election goes, I think that the CSU is in very good hands. Everyone I've seen so far seems very qualified, very competent, and I'm looking forward to the coming year. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sarah, any final remarks?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the coming year as well, and I think that no matter who wins as well, it'll be a really amazing experience, and we'll get a lot done for the queer community, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who wins. It's just about what we can accomplish for our queer peers.
Thank you very much to both candidates, and I'll pass it back to Alicia for the CSU Arts and Sciences representative.
Perfect, thank you. And so next up we'll have Clara Duell, who is our CSU Arts and Science representative candidate. Hi, Clara.
Hello.
So can you tell us why you feel like you would be a good candidate for the CSU Arts and Science representative?
Yes, so I applied to the CSU Art and Science representative because I want to assist students and I want to help this community. I also believe that I'm able to do this because I have a unique perspective that I share with many of the new students, and that is to only have experienced university in really the remote sense, which comes with a unique set of challenges. And I have a great insight into what those are, in particularly like understanding platforms and knowing what resources are available. I personally actively search for them. I reach out for people. However, many students might not have the time to reach out to people, or they might feel intimidated. So if I get elected, I really would like to work as that channel between CSU and the students to help foster a stronger community.
Perfect, thank you. And if you are elected this term, what do you expect to accomplish?
Yes, so as previously mentioned, there is a little bit of lack between CSU and the students. So the first thing I would like to do is that I would like to increase the awareness of what CSU is doing for the students. The second thing I would like to do is that I would also like to bring forward more voices. And I want to, for every student to feel that their concerns are really valid and important, because I believe that it's that really leads to a great sense of community.
Perfect. And do you have any prior experience in a role similar to this one?
Yes, I have some prior experience. I did leading some youth groups back in Sweden, and I've also worked as an hub ambassador here. But what I would say that these experiences really taught me is the importance of teamwork and how an open communication can lead to really great results. So what I hope to do here is to apply that previous experience into making a stronger community here.
Perfect. And how familiar are you with what the CSU does at Capilano?
I would say that I'm rather familiar. I've done a little bit of research, I reached out to people, and I also learned a lot more through the peer leadership program. Although I'm sure that I have a lot more to learn because CSU is doing a lot of amazing things. And that was actually why I wanted to be a part of this. When I read about it, I realized that they do so many amazing things and that I would love to be a part of this and contribute.
Correct. And is there something that the CSU isn't currently doing that you wish that they were?
That's a good question. Well, I would first like to acknowledge that I think that CSU is doing an amazing job, especially during these really challenging times. I mentioned that there's a lack between students and the union. However, it's extremely hard to reach out to students during this online environment. So although it's really unfortunate that not more people know about what CSU is doing, I think that they're doing a great job trying to fill in that gap between students and CSU, and I just wish that they continue to do what they do.
Perfect. And final question, what would you do if a student brought up a controversial suggestion or concern that you didn't agree with and they wanted you to bring it to the board?
So if a student brought up a concern that I didn't agree with and they wanted me to bring up to the board, the first thing I would do is that I would try my best to really listen and try to understand the student's perspective. Because I think it's so easy to just dismiss something that you don't really agree with instead of really trying to understand it. And maybe it's something that I missed or misunderstood. And if I try to have a conversation and I still disagree, I still have a responsibility to bring it forward. I am in no position of ever judging someone's concern. It could be that it's pointing towards an underlying issue that needs to be resolved. Or it can be that it just doesn't apply to me, but it could apply to other groups at the university. So I think it's my duty to represent all students, and that also means that every single opinion is valid.
Great. And do you have any final remarks?
My final remarks is that I have the experience, I know how it is to engage people, to bring people forward, and I'm aware of the challenges the students are facing right now. So if I'm elected, I promise to really make every single student feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara. And I will pass it back off to Bridget to go to our International Students Liaison.
Perfect. Thanks, Alicia. So now we'll go to the International Students Liaison, Nandini Sharda.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you, Bridget?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So the first question I have for you today is, why do you feel you'd be, oh, sorry, 1 second. That was the wrong question. Since you're running again, can you tell us what you've accomplished so far in your role?
What I would accomplish. So sorry, could you repeat?
Sorry, 1 second. The questions are a little bit mixed up here. Since you were on the CSU before, can you tell us what you accomplished in your role?
As Vice President Academics before?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I've learned a lot. It was my first semester, and I would like to give a little backstory here. It was my first semester, and then one of my instructor, he mentioned that there are elections going on. So I decided to run for VP Academics. I think I was a part of executive team, and it was a great learning experience for me. I mean, I was an international student myself. I am still, and I think it was great. And this year, I look forward to run for International Students Liaison, just because I think I can make justice to this role and help other students.
Perfect. Thank you. And what would you like to accomplish this term if you're elected?
I think in this term, if elected, I'm looking for more opportunities for international students to engage. Since because of COVID and everything being online, there is a lost connection, and there is a big sense of learning experience on campus that the students they are missing. So I would like to create an environment where it's welcoming and positive, and then the students they get a sense of belongingness to Capilano, and a good support to the students where they know that they have someone that they can reach out to.
Perfect. Thank you. And what is something the CSU isn't doing that you wish they were?
Firstly, as Clara said, I would definitely say that CSU is doing a great job. CSU has a very hardworking team. I think I would love to have more engagement opportunities for the international students, more ways to communicate to the students, and more volunteer opportunities.
Thank you. And what would you do if a student brought up a controversial suggestion or concern that you didn't agree with and wanted you to bring it to the board?
I think I'll firstly be a good listener, and I'll make sure firstly that whatever the subject is, it aligns with CSU policies and ethics. I would give my individual feedback to what I think about it, and then I would definitely bring it to the board, just because it doesn't mean if it's not important to me, it's not for everyone else. So I would definitely bring it to the board, as long as it aligns with the CSU ethics.
Thank you. And did you have any final remarks?
I just want to say that if I get elected, I just want to create a platform where students feel welcome and they feel free to express themselves. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for answering our questions today. And we also have the CSU Sunshine Coast campus representative. We have Bridget Michael, who is running, but I don't believe she is here today. For the CSU Mature and Parent Students Liaison, we have Mayumi Izumi. And for the CSU at-large representative, we have Joel Jelani, I believe. I hope I pronounced that properly. So I believe we've gone through everyone here today, so I'll just quickly go to the Q&A. I see that Oscar Blue has a question for Clara. How do you hope to endeavor to bridge the gap between the CSU and its members? So if we could just bring Clara back onto the screen.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. So I think that's a really good question. It's very difficult, as I mentioned, during the online environment because students are getting bombarded with emails and all information are virtual. I think what is missing is that interpersonal connection, and there's multiple ways to do that. You can set up meetings, you can have workshops, and just more opportunities where you actually can speak to a person in a non-intimidating setting.
Perfect, thank you. And there is one more question at the start from Oscar. Communication of services is important and definitely something to work on, but of those services currently offered, where do you see the gap existing? Oscar, if you could just type into the chat who this question would be for. Is there anyone in particular? I don't see it quite yet, so we'll move on to the last question. This is for the business and professional studies representatives. So if we could bring both of them back onto the screen. What would be your top 2 priorities if you were elected? So we could start with Terrence. What would be your top 2 priorities if you're elected?
Top 2 priorities if elected. Definitely my first priority is seeing how I can advocate for BIPOC representation in a business and C-suite setting. And another priority, I already mentioned this before, is my second priority is to help out with the professional development and the transition from classroom to business field for all of our graduating business students.
Perfect. And Ben?
Yeah, so I think my first priority sort of goes along with Terrence's first one, taking some of the work that we do with the EDA Action Group and making sure that there is a lot of representation for students, faculty, all that sort of thing. And, a lot of accountability, I think, can be shown as like a pretty good leading example. I think the business program can be a good leading example for those sorts of things. And then I think my second one, I think it goes along a little bit with what Claire was saying. I think a lot more involvement for other members of the CSU who are just students, not necessarily on the board of directors. I think there are a lot of voices that maybe don't get a lot of light shined on them. So I think a lot of more collaboration, whether it is with faculty and other students, to just kind of see where everyone's concerns are and just make sure that the business program is a really good environment.
Perfect, thank you. We've just received another question for you. How has your past experience affected your decision to run for this position? What experience would you bring to this role? So we'll go back to Terrence.
Well, as Cappy made president, definitely marketing, but more so working with the CPPS, understanding how bylaws work, understanding how policy works, and understanding how those decisions are made and how those decisions are voted on and are decided. So definitely from a political, definitely from a government standpoint, just learning more about the government structures and how to shorten my answer, good governance, to quote Christopher Giodat.
Thank you. And Ben, how has your past experience affected your decision to run for this position? What experience would you bring to the role?
So I think, like I mentioned before, working with EDA Action Group has helped me learn a little bit about a lot of different processes with working with the institution, whether it is working with policy, trying to get some events set up, trying to really communicate with the student body about a lot of important causes and things like that. You know, I don't have a terrible amount of experience, you know, with governments and things like that, or governance and things like that. But I think if I can take sort of, you know, the strong morals and values I think I have, and kind of as I go along, learn, you know, the ins and outs of a lot of the processes, I think I can pick a lot of that up pretty quickly, and hopefully get a lot of work done.
Perfect. Thank you both for your answers. The next question in the Q&A is for the queer reps. So if I could just get both of them back on the screen, please. Perfect. So the question is, what kind of programming would you put on to educate non-2S LGBTQIA+ students about the queer community? And we'll start with Juliet, because I believe Sarah's
Sorry,
on.
my audio was being weird. I couldn't hear what you guys said.
Oh, sorry. I'll just repeat the question. What kind of programming would you put on to educate the non-2S LGBTQIA+ students about the queer community? We'll start with Juliet.
I think that's an excellent question. I think there's a lot of different avenues that could be taken, whether that be, you know, speeches given by, you know, more professional presenters that we could bring in, or again, queer literature. We talked a lot about that, and even just doing whatever we can to create a more welcoming environment for all queer students in general. And yeah, yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And Sarah, what kind of programming would you put on to educate the non-2S LGBTQIA+ students about the queer community?
So when you say put on, what do you mean?
I'm not sure who asked the question, but I believe they mean like, what sorts of activities would you like to organize?
Okay, well, like I said earlier, I would love to bring in some speakers on the importance of pronouns and safe sex and queer sexuality. Vancouver has a hugely diverse community, so I think that bringing in speakers to talk about their experience as a queer person and what they wished other people knew about how to treat them and all of that stuff, I think that would be amazing. I think that there's also some really, really good documentaries that can be found on Canvas through CAP. I was looking at a bunch of them and I've seen a lot of the really good ones. There's also some really good educational YouTube videos that are not boring.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your answer. Oscar's question from earlier is actually for Juliet. So I'll just ask that now, and then Sarah, you can have a chance to respond as well. Communication of services is important and definitely something to work on, but of those services currently offered, where do you see the gaps existing?
In terms of services offered?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think the first part is visibility of those services. There's not a lot besides maybe the occasional email about the types of services that CAP offers, and I think that is, you know, I think it could be improved, you know, for sure. Beyond that, it could be, you know, just that expansion of services, possibly if, you know, if those services that we do have are overwhelmed, perhaps we could, you know, outsource to other organizations, people, doctors, whatever is needed, right? Because I think Sarah said there's a lot of LGBTQ plus people out there, and I find it hard to believe that as it is now, we are capable of helping everyone get the help they need. Excuse me.
Thank you. And I'll just give Sarah a chance to answer the same question if you would like.
Yeah, I think the gap is evident in the fact that as a queer individual looking for services, you have to go looking for them. There's not, we get emails, I get multiple emails a day from CAP, but rarely are they ever anything to do with like accessibility services for queer individuals. So I think that could be improved. I also think that, I mean, at any university you go to, there's not, there's going to be a gap between the help that they can offer at the university and the help that they can is offered and available outside of the university. So I think bridging the two would be really awesome. Whether it's just better, whether the people are better informed at like showing the students where to go. If that is just a step in the right direction.
Thank you both for your answers. And that concludes the Q&A questions, as there's no more there. So I would just like to thank everyone for attending the first of our 2 candidate forums for the Capilano Students Union election. Voting will take place online from March 16th at 9 a.m. to March 18th at 5 p.m. Ballots will be sent to your Capilano U emails. Please come join us again on Thursday, March 11th at noon, where we'll hear from candidates for the CSU president, the 4 vice president positions, as well as all the Capilano Business and Professional Society positions. Unofficial results will be published on the evening of the 18th. So you can follow the Capilano Courier and the Capilano Students Union, CAP Student Union on Instagram and other social media for updates. And now I'd just like to pass it back to John.
Thank you so much, Bridget and Alicia, for doing a wonderful job moderating, and all the candidates. You all did such an amazing job. So it's very, very exciting. We're going to be posting this video on the Capilano Students Union's YouTube account this afternoon, and we'll send you a link to the email if you registered, so you can share it with your friends and supporters. But don't forget to come back on Thursday at noon, same time. We're going to be, for us to interview the remaining candidates. And that's all for me. And thanks again, everybody.